Hello Reddit. Redditors, what's the most metal thing you've ever seen? Steve Irwin wrestles a croc back into the river, stands up and looks at his hand. Crikey, I dislocated my finger. Grabs his finger and pops it back into place, then double takes. Wait, never mind. It's broken. There was an article about a rapist who threw gasoline on his victim and proceeded to light her up in an effort to shut her up for good. She dragged him into the flames to burn with her. My boss drilled into his hand when a bit slipped, got his knife out, picked the filings of steel that got into his hand, got the alcohol and poured it over, slapped crazy glue to close the gap and drove to the hospital. The crazy part is that his face never changed. No emotion at all. Edit. Shout out to my other co-worker that had 2 of his fingers get caught on a rolling machine and torn apart. He just turned around and said help me guys in the most nonchalant way. I didn't witness it directly but it absolutely qualifies. A few months back my friend noticed his 18-year-old cat seemed sick, just really lethargic, and seemed to have a small wound/bump on his tail. He kept an eye on him for a day or 2, seeing if he was going to have to take him into the vet. 2 days later, the cat barfs up a dead black widow spider and legitimately went back to normal after and cleaned his tail wound himself and it healed. This fucking cat was bit by a black widow and then ate it and came out completely fine. So metal. Didn't see this firsthand, but my dad's friend told us about one time when his dog chased a bear up a tree. In a dog versus bear fight, the bear would win every time, but they tend to be pretty timid, so this dog treed it. The guy calls his dog back into the house, but before leaving, the dog pees on the tree with a bear in it. Super ballsy on the dog's part. I used to have a basset hound and a tiny cow-looking chihuahua. Basset hounds have a nose and a desire to hunt. One time a hawk came down, trying to carry away the chihuahua. As it swooped, it didn't get a chance to grab the tiny cow because my basset caught its neck, brought it to the ground, and started methodically breaking all its bones by running its jaw up and down the hawk's body until it laid there dying, unable to move. My dog won't even eat other animals. It just hunts. I watched an epic fight between a spider wasp and a huntsman spider. It went on for about 10 minutes and was like a kind of mini Godzilla, King of the Monsters vibe. It ended with a spider wasp winning and dragging the spider back into a big hole in my garden wall. It was fucking intense. Australian wildlife is metal as fuck. Ramstein at the Metro in Chicago for $5 in the summer of 1998. My grandpa survived 3 brain tumors. They removed large parts of his brain, though, and he had multiple grand mal, IDK how to spell, seizures. He averaged almost 1 seizure a day. Regular treatment wasn't really working, so his amazing surgeon guy put electrodes in his brain that stopped the seizures for a good 7 months. My grandpa was a cyborg for a short amount of time. And he was given up as a kid. Tortured because his parents abandoned him to a state school where they electrocuted him because they misdiagnosed him with autism. He was called in for the draft for Vietnam pretty much as soon as he was able. They rejected him for his mental health background, to which he stubbornly said fuck you, I'm enlisting, and he said Vietnam was easier than his childhood in a lot of ways. He spent his life advocating for autistic rights. If you don't believe me, they wrote a book about him. You'll like it here by Edor Zachowski, again spelling IDK if that's right. My grandpa was a Vietnam veteran cyborg who fought for autistic rights. I loved that man so much. Old lady I used to take care of, she was an aircraft mechanic in her youth during WW2. She fought me tooth and nail every time I went in to help her. One day in the dining room she fell out of her wheelchair and busted her head wide open. She was 95. Blood everywhere. This lady stands up, blood running down her face. We rushed to help her. She looked me dead in the face and said fuck off, I don't need any help. We called an ambulance. One of my friends has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, far worse than myself. I remember once her foot fell out from under her on a staircase. She slipped down, and ended up a curled and contorted mess, having dislocated both shoulders and twisted her legs underneath her. Before I could even get down the stairs and help, she started popping her joints back in and untangling herself. It was like watching a marionette build itself from a pile of parts. Either truly metal or nightmare fodder. Turning off the highway onto a road that leads into a small country town, there was a deer carcass rotting underneath the sun that was likely the result of a vehicle hit. Feasting on the corpse was a bald eagle with its beak stained red from his free meal. I slowed down to observe, and he spread his wings out as if to show his dominance. Once in a lifetime sight. When I was younger, maybe 16, this young kid walks up to me all angry, slapped my smoothie to the ground and walks away. No words, just eye contact and a man on a mission. I'll find you one of these days, Austin. Me and a buddy of mine were mid-crowd at a Dragon Force show in 2005. We were helping people get up for crowd surfing, and it had been about 15 minutes at this point. My friend looks at me and says, "Well, I gotta go. It's my turn now," and without even saying anything, he makes a Superman pose and the guy's right in front of us. Without saying anything, just boost him up, and he is passed to the front in that pose. Hilarious. Another time, Bill Kelleher of Mastodon was flicking his pics into the crowd at the end of a show, and one hit me in the eye and got stuck. That's how I earned one of my concert pics. I saw a falcon attack a squirrel's nest, and it kept going back for the babies, tearing them apart, then throwing them to the ground. Then the parent squirrel jumped at the falcon and it literally tore the poor thing's head clean off, and its headless body fell to its mangled children. I remember in college we had psycho squirrels on campus. I once saw the end of a fight between two and the losing squirrel had had its tail torn off. The winner triumphantly carried off the corpse of the other one in its jaws. When I was a kid we were out riding our bikes around in summer break. I saw some of the older high school kids come hauling ass around the corner on the back streets of my town in a VW Bug, and rolled it. Passenger window was open and no seat belts. Passenger got ejected, flew about 10 feet through the air ass over tea kettle, and landed on his feet. The Bug had rolled back onto its wheels, and he gave us a thumbs up, and jumped back in the car, and they drove off. Blew my fucking grade school mind. It was cooler than anything I ever saw on Dukes of Hazzard.